WowieTalk does not encourage pirating music.
However,
we only encourage stealing other people's ideas.
Yes.
Sort of.
this is a good back and forthy one. Rather, I don't know how the idea came about, but we were talking about influences. And
It was a book I've been reading this book called Steal Like an Artist, and it's it's like it's like a series of like little anecdotes about creativity and stuff. And the first one is like Steal Like an Artist, in that the author suggests that the best way to like determine if art is good is like say if this is art worth stealing or art not worth stealing.
I like that.
Well, I mean, of course, it's like the author's opinion, but I view it in a way that's like, I listen to a song. So I use Spotify as my main music service, and I have this playlist called Scrumptious and Sonorous, which I created.
Nice.
So whenever I hear a song that's really, really good, like basically that gives me an idea for like an arrangement in my head, I throw it in that playlist. And maybe even if it doesn't give me an arrangement idea, but I just think it's really good, then sometimes I just put that playlist on, and then usually it gives me like something will click in your head. So
Right.
a lot of my arrangements are just like styles of legit jazz songs,
Right.
sort of superimposed onto melodies from video games with my own like sort of transitions and stuff put in.
Yeah.
Right. How do you feel about that though? Because I feel like some people I've spoken to, especially like newer musicians to the game, they don't know too much non-video game music, and then like most of their source material or inspiration is like you or like cover artists, and then they're just like they don't want to steal.
Well, I mean, if their inspiration is another cover artist, I don't think it's much different than like a quote unquote legit sort of thing, because I mean, I think it's very hard to create something that you've never heard, right?
Oh yeah, totally.
Yeah, so like, I mean, if they hear it from like a classic jazz record, or if they hear it from me, if they hear it from me, then oh boy, I'm happy because you inspired somebody, you know.
Right, right.
But like that's not to like dismiss the fact that they heard it from a YouTuber. Like that's okay. I think there's nothing wrong with that.
Right. No, I mean that's good. I think like the biggest thing when it comes to like influences, because I feel like I do a very similar thing, but instead of jazz music, or like for the most part, sometimes some fusion artists inspire me, like Guthrie Govan. He's a fantastic guitar player, and I can't label him, but it's definitely not like metal. It's definitely not only jazz, but it's like shreddy, fusiony funk. And I don't know, when you listen to this stuff and then I'm like, hey, this could sound good in, I don't know, Twilight Princess or something.
Yeah.
It's just, it goes together very well. But I think there's like a secondary function. I don't know if you guys noticed, but like whenever we type in our descriptions or something, like I got inspired by The Contortionist, the next day, or like even in the comments, people are just like, I listened to this band.
Yeah.
I could totally see the resemblance. And it's like, hey, I got someone into a band, which would never work IRL because have you ever tried showing new music?
Yeah, it never works. It never works
so
the way you
bad.
want it to.
Yeah.
Hey bro, check out this new artist this new dude I heard, and then the guy just like pulls out his phone and starts like nodding his head, and I said, yeah, he's cool. You know.
That's like my mother. She's like, Julia, put on an album or put on the radio. I'm like, okay, I'm not gonna put on the radio,
Right.
Put on an album. So I put on an album, and she's just like talking over it, and then after 5 minutes is like, Julia, this is not proper dinner music. I can't take this anymore. Change it.
Wait. What'd you put on though?
I put on Coma Ecliptic.
Yes, that would have been cool. If your mom ate
I
to
thought she
Between the
would
Buried
actually like it. She's like pretty open to stuff.
Between the Buried and Me is actually pretty accessible too.
They're right. Like that album, I think is totally accessible. And she's like, "This is not just as hard listening." I'm like, "Actually, hard listening, mother, because I could put on some like make your ears bleed."
Do it.
Yeah, I didn't go there. I was like, I just put on Carlos's Year 5. That's like my default.
Carlos
I'm
is
like,
too
you can't
good
get
of a
angry at
go-to.
jazz. Yeah.
What?
I don't know, like
Carlos's go-to, like,
Dolphin Shoals
don't
is
know what
probably
to
at the
play
big...
or listen to. Carlos.
Yeah.
I have
My
used
dad
Dolphin
likes
Shoals like 5
Carlos's
times.
stuff. I like play it sometimes. He'll like start like bobbing his head to it. And, like I was the Realm Overworld from Spirit Tracks. I was like, Dad, this is my favorite one from Carlos. Let's listen. And then it's like da 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 da. But I forget what it actually goes. You know what I'm talking about? Yes,
oh, you use the train whistle.
Yeah, the train whistle.
Yeah. So I was just like jamming out to it, and my dad was like doing the same thing, kind of. He was just like, oh yeah, it's nice. So yeah, I agree. Carlos's music is always like a good go-to.
Actually, speaking of Carlos's music and like how many times do you notice for each of you guys like other YouTubers influencing our own music? Because I definitely feel like I've ended up incorporating things after being like, that sounded cool.
Yeah, totally.
I do that with Carlos all the time, where like I hear something like, "Oh, I'm like I want to do something like that, but not completely like that."
It also extends like outside of music too, just like video style. I mean, the sellout background has been spreading like the flu around YouTube.
Oh man,
so
sellout background. I think
influences.
Well, yeah, I mean, you can see it as stealing, but like for one, it's like. You can't really claim ownership of that. It's like, it's not like, oh, it's my borders.
I got like 20 comments saying that I stole from John Young. Not from like the person who probably inspired him, but from John Young.
No one's like copyrighted a black background.
So apparently people have copyrighted a classical style of singing. Because the amount of time, like, there was one comment row on our Hellfire collaboration.
Right.
That was like, oh, she's trying too hard to be Tarja from Nightwish.
Oh, God.
And like...
I should mark that as spam.
Yeah, she's trying too hard to be Tarja. If she just sang in her own style, she'd be so much better. And I'm like...
What?
Oh, I'm like, okay, so I don't understand. Is it like if you have a classical tone, then you're copying, like...
There's so many...
Right. It was a very confusing comment to me. The amount of comparisons we got to Nightwish was like...
No, that one I noticed. Nightwish. It's like,
and so
rock. Let me type in the best comment in the world. You sound like this band.
You are Nightwish.
Literally, I mean, we've had our comment rant episode, but... Mm-hmm. I mean, like, I do notice, like, the influence things come very often. Like, I talk to our friend Alejandro, H-Music, all the time about, music mixing and, like, we both really enjoy these progressive metal bands, and we end up incorporating so much of what they do to where it's, like, I almost hope people notice it. Like in, what was it, Undertale? Heartache, I literally stole a part from Tesseract's album Altered State, like a clean breakdown, and like nobody noticed, and my hope was someone would, because then they would like the same album that I love so much. But I had to tell people that afterwards. But I don't know, I think it plays a nice role.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's interesting the like progressive metal influence, because I would say that like it's a huge influence to me, but it doesn't manifest itself.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that about your music. That like I know you listen to a lot of that sort of stuff, but it like the instrumentation doesn't really manifest itself in the music, apart from like Undersea Palace, because you had access to that sort of thing.
Because I did, I had Ubaldo, and I was.
It was like the first time I talked to you after I saw your channel. I was just like, oh my god, she's a rocker, but she makes like this like gentle classical influence. Like it's like. It's cooler that way almost, Well, then so I got an interesting comment from Peter Soundle Music.
He leaves very interesting comments like all the time.
Yes, and he seems to kind of grasp, because he comes from the same very classical background that I do. He seems to kind of grasp where I'm coming from a lot of the time. And so in the live piano arrangement that I had done of Lost Woods and Song of Healing, I did do some mixed meter in there.
Yes,
and he commented saying, I'm really glad to hear mixed meter in the context of like a spacey context to create a relaxed feel, and not like metal, gent. Right. And I'm like, well, that is the influence for the mixed meter.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Huh. Oh, of course. Jazz is what influenced that in gent.
Right.
Having unique.
Because Meshuggah, they're all jazz.
Yeah, freaking Meshuggah is like a jazz band, but
Yeah.
with 8-string down-tuned guitars playing 4/4 and 23/16 at the same time.
Oh my god.
But it's like kind of beautiful how you can steal from an artist and then put it into your own voice, and no one would ever know almost. Not like
Right, and
getting away with it. Yeah, haha.
And there's similar things too with Carlos and then with jazz stuff. So I will incorporate like what Carlos has shown me a little bit more with jazz voicings, but not in a jazz context.
Yeah.
So just little elements of that.
I mean, those voicings are not necessarily good just because they're jazz in the jazz context. It's good just because the way that harmony works.
Yes,
and
exactly.
Jazz harmony is just like, I don't think it should be called jazz harmony. It's more like contemporary harmony. Mm-hmm, it's not exclusive to that genre at all.
Right. Yeah, and lots of extensions and things like that, just incorporating that. So the big things that I incorporate into my music that are not necessarily strictly classical, I would say, are the mixed meter idea of that comes from progressive rock and metal, well, mainly metal, and then the extensions and occasionally voicings used in jazz and contemporary music, and then instrumentation, because I'm classically trained. It's going to be more, classically based. But I'm always trying to put synth in, or like just if I hear some like dirty synth tone, and I'm like yes. Like you guys will hear. I don't know when this episode will air, but there's gonna be my Mog's mixtape Final Fantasy track.
Yeah. It's so good. You should get that album if you haven't.
Thank you. It's gonna come up. I have to finish editing it tonight. So that was just like, how can I make like nasty synth sounds basically, and combine it with
Google nasty sounds.
Yeah, like I have like wow going all in there, and but then I'm singing
so well though. Like you made it like, because I was listening to it on Spotify actually, and I was like, man, like you got the flute in there, you got your vocals, you got like the piano and that
got
awesome,
like a dirge going on.
Dirge.
Yeah, it's crazy. But it just mixes so well, and it's just like, I don't even know how it all goes together so well. It just does.
That's
so it's like really cool to listen to. It's like an experience to listen to it.
That's one of the best things I think about listening to music we don't know how to make, or like have never even like electronic is really new to me, but thanks to things like Gamelark or like these mixed albums, you end up exposing yourself to all these things, and all of a sudden it's like, I really want to hear that. Like I think in Mount Coronet, which is like still probably my favorite one from you, Carlos. Like you have that synth.
Have you heard the new version?
I have not.
There's a completely redone version which sounds so much better.
I'm excited. But it's like unexpected, and I don't know, like it's like when you watch a movie that like you'd never think you'd watch in a million years, and then the next day you're just like, man, I gotta make stuff like this, which actually happens to me a lot, because like, I don't know, I don't love watching movies, but some cinematic scores really influence me more than like just metal bands or whatever. Especially because like I want to get pretty okay at like orchestra integration and like that whole cinematic like Hans Zimmer Bong stuff, and like if
Hans Zimmer's Bong.
Hans Zimmer's Bong. It's 100 gigabytes of Bong samples. Like if you listen to Inception soundtrack, there's a lot of guitar work.
Don't even. Inception is so good.
I watched on the plane, and that's why I was just like, the soundtrack is like not
like
just
time.
I just think
okay.
that like The Lion King is his ultimate soundtrack.
It's hard to pick because he's made so many good ones, but Lion King does sit very high.
It's so
To
good.
Die For is probably the best cinematic song.
Oh my god.
It's so
Is that Spear of Justice by Toby Fox?
Can we take the kid who wasn't alive when this movie came out of the chat?
Oh my god, they were not alive, these children.
Wait, when did that movie come out?
Theaters. They probably saw it on like Blu-ray for the first time.
Yeah, Blu-ray? Excuse me.
Are you kidding me? I watched a VHS tape.
VHS.
I'm kidding.
Oh my god.
I'm kidding.
Excuse me, do you guys remember a little
Laserdisc?
The Laserdisc?
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, Ro.
I actually know what that is.
What's a Laserdisc?
Clearly, no one's watched regular.
Oh, honey,
It's like a
sweetie pie,
giant
sugar,
DVD.
cupcake.
They have
No.
they have a whole episode on regular show about the Laserdisc.
Really?
Never heard of this thing.
Yeah.
No way.
It came out 20 years after the Laserdisc. It's basically a giant DVD because it's the same technology, but like they came in the same exact kind of boxes records do, and they look so cool. We have Terminator 2 and Lion King on Laserdisc somewhere.
Laserdisc.
Can't believe
Wow.
you've never heard of that.
I've never heard of it before.
It's what came in between like videotapes and DVDs kinda, but because it was
Oh.
huge, people were just like, why have this? And then my dad
Was it
got
like-
one.
Literally.
Was there like a Laserdisc player? Like was
Yeah,
it like a
it's-
record player?
I mean, the
Yeah.
way a DVD works is it shoots a laser at the disc, reflects, and then it's like, hey, picture, hey, sound. It's the same exact idea, but huger.
Except they were huge. They were the size of like records.
They're like
Oh
the,
my gosh.
I don't
Yeah.
recall this either.
I mean, you guys can look it up. It's just like one of those weird things that like didn't stick as much, but it was like a pretty big format.
And Laserdiscs heavily influenced my musical
I watched-
There,
taste.
I
yes,
watched
back
it.
to the
Yeah.
influences.
Yes.
Yeah, how did we
Yes,
get
yes.
here?
We'll have
Get
another
off
episode on
topic.
Laserdisc.
Jeez.
Tara, talk about your influences.
How do you
Okay.
steal
Two Steps
cleverly?
from Hell. That's all
Yeah,
I know.
2 Steps from Hell.
Carlos is right. I like Two Steps from Hell a lot. Their music is really inspirational. I really like Hans Zimmer's work as well. And I mean, I'm trying to think because most of the time when I do my string stuff, I do have more of like Tchaikovsky in mind and other like I would say Tchaikovsky's a good one for me. I like Debussy a lot as well. It's kind of weird though because I feel like I don't intentionally take things from other songs. Like having a reference track is still really new to me. So I think what I do is I get the idea in my head and that idea is probably used in, a symphony from Tchaikovsky or something like that. Or I've heard it so often when I'm playing in the orchestra, like this is going to resolve to this or
Yeah.
like this the violins are gonna end on the last note and then the rest of the strings have like a 2 beats before they come in kind of thing. Like that's what I've been doing actually. I did that for I Am Setsuna and for Epitaph. I had the violin come in and then 2 beats later or something the rest of the strings come in.
What about
and
vocals?
Vocals? Man,
Because I know you have a pretty broad appeal, like K-pop, I'm sure might make its way.
I mean, I feel like I don't bring that into my covers that much though. It's kind of just weird. I just kind of wing it and I just fiddle around with my project file until I think of some kind of harmony that I think will work really well. For my original stuff though, most of the time when I do originals, it's on the piano. And I feel like my influences, like my playing style is very similar to that of like Yeruma or David Lanz or Brian Crane. And they're all like new age pianists. I feel like my piano style in terms of writing original music is very similar to theirs. So that for sure I know because I just grew up listening to all 3 of them. So I kind of adopted their style in a way in terms of my original stuff. And I will have a piano original video out probably tomorrow.
Woo! New video.
Well, probably, later or earlier or whatever, because this is not going to be up right away. But yeah, it'll be out by the time this is up. So
That's
it's
awesome.
really quick, like a minute and a half, 2 minutes. So
Well, that's pretty
yeah,
cool.
Love it.
Keeping track of time and stuff, of course.
Yes.
So like listening to everybody here, I guess, like if you were listening to this, I guess, what kind of like what's the process you best would advise people when it comes to like getting inspiration from outside sources or like stealing artists and like little licks and loops and stuff? Like how do you go about doing that? I guess like Carlos explained his thing. For me, it always seems to be like I just happen to listen to a little bit of video game music now and then, like from playing. I feel like playing the game is the best way to listen for some reason.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It's not the only way.
Hearing about it in the context of the game is so important.
It definitely helps you understand, like, what the feel of the piece is.
Yeah, like, what exactly is even going on. Because the music is written for the game. Like, it can stand alone, but the main gist of it is within the context, and I'm going to write a paper about that, actually.
Like, I have Saturday nights where I'll just, like, close Skype, close Facebook, put away my phone, and play a game. Like, just shut up and play a game, and, like, try not to think about anything else. Like, a lot of the time I'll have my DS out and Netflix on, and I'll be distracted, but I feel like that's like my isolation, so I can just, like, feel out the game. But then I'll have other times where I'm like watching Luke Cage or something, and I'll be like, wow, these are really cool R&B artists, and I really want to do something that has like more of a gentler feel, or like watch a movie or an anime or something. And I feel like all these separate like isolated chill moments or whatever with the influence help me think about like, hey, this would go, great in a song. But like, I guess that just means, like, watch more TV, listen to more soundtracks, like...
just listen, you guys. And don't, listen to so many different things.
There's a
don't
great...
listen to one thing.
Yeah, there's a great vlog that David Ramos has put out a long time ago.
Yes.
About the creative process, and he goes through some guy's theory of the different stages of the creative process. It's a very good watch. I've watched it several times to help understand the way I think, and help other people understand the way they think, too.
Interesting.
Yeah, watch that.
Yeah, it's a good plug.
And don't ever feel like you're stealing, because...
Yeah, you're not stealing.
Because everyone has stolen.
Okay, there are ways to
there's
steal.
Probably instances where people are, but...
I mean, but it's like all this music has been taken from somewhere else. Like, come on now. Let's just look back at some music history, shall we?
As long as it avoids YouTube
Nightcore
Content
or
ID,
dual mix
you're
it.
okay.
I think the thing to keep in mind is, like, we obviously draw inspiration from so many different sources. I think what's really important is that you take a step back, like I draw a lot of inspiration from Carlos just because, we're both video game saxophonist, jazz people. But if I'm ever covering a song that's
right.
If I'm ever covering a song that he did in the past, like, my tendency is to always think about how he did it. I'm like, no. I always try to never do it the same style as he does, because I know I'm gonna be like, oh yeah, I'm just gonna do this, and then it's gonna turn into a less good version of what he did, and a more classical sounding version, because my tone is more classical. But so, like, I think it's good to, like, hear someone else do a version of it to give you some ideas, but, like, you
still want to develop your own style.
Yeah, like, you want to take note of what's good and see how you can incorporate that in a different style. So, like, for Megalovania, like, I was originally going to do it, like, in a funk style, and this was before Carlos did it, and I'm like, no, I'm going to do Latin, and then Carlos was like, oh, I'm going to do funk, but there have been, and, like,
God, Carlos ruins everything.
Sorry.
And when I did Corridors of Time, I was like, I kept thinking of Carlos's version, and I'm like, no, I'm like, I'm not doing it like that. Like, I wouldn't let myself, but I took notes of what I liked, so, like, I took his sax harmonies, but I did it in a different style.
Do you ever, or any of you guys, just, like, shut out another cover that you're working on? Like, you don't want to listen to too many of other people's until you're finished.
I don't listen to anything until I'm finished.
Right,
like
exactly.
Unless it's a completely different style, a completely different song, a completely different music. Like, I don't listen to other people's versions of things.
I have to avoid it, or else it'll creep in.
Exactly.
When I was at Diego, 3 people or 2 people did Mob Psycho 100, the new anime theme song.
Yeah.
None of them listened to each other's for more than 5 seconds just to be sure.
Yeah.
They didn't want to. They didn't want to accidentally steal like obvious styles. Like if any of you have ever had your arrangement like copied, like without it being obvious. It's happened like a few times for me. I think it's happened a few more to you, Carlos.
Yeah, it's just something that kind of happens. You don't realize it. It's like Julia did her Radical Dreamers cover, and I am still working on mine. But I'm doing a cover with Checker.
Checker
on Radical Dreamer as well. And then I realized that the harmonies that I made are pretty much the exact same that Julia did, and it was because I listened to hers.
like a little like turn thing, and I'm like, oh,
yep.
That's
And I was like,
interesting.
oh my god, because I listened to it again. I was like, oh, I wonder what Julia did, and then I realized that I did the exact same thing. I was like, crap.
Tara messaged me like, I'm so
so
sorry, I stole your voice.
That sounds just like.
Pretty much. I was like so upset. I was like, oh, this sounds so good, and then I realized Julia came up with it first.
And like, well, because I know that Michelle had done a cover of Radical Dreamers.
Someone's
and I
always
was like, I
covered it.
cannot listen, but I had to listen at least to make sure that I didn't harmonize in the same way.
The same
that
way,
she did.
yeah. That's why I was checking, and then I realized I did the same way.
It happens so much that there's so much like crossover covers too. Like, what Carlos, you, me, and Rich all did Shala's theme in like the same month. I'm pretty sure.
Different styles though.
And yeah, very actively different styles. His was like a fast-paced metal thing. Mine was like slowed down prog metal, and then yours was
Mine was
like
Film Outside, boys.
It was such a good ballad. It was a ballad salad. But yeah, it happens. I guess like I always tell people like whenever people are like, I guess I can't cover that now. It's just like, yes, you can.
That's not how it works.
And, yeah,
It's not how it works. But
you
people
make
do
your
have that
song.
conception that like someone puts it out first and they can't.
Or else they'll steal it. And I mean, like, I'm not inviting people to steal it. And I don't think there's ever been a time where someone did take my arrangement and I was like, oh no, now you're going to get all of the praise and I'm just poop. But.
Same.
Well, at least if you're taking like a huge amount of influence from someone else in an arrangement of the same tune, at least mention.
Yes, common courtesy.
What you're doing, or
yeah,
very good.
That's very important.
You know, or you know, have the
mention
audacity to say.
I don't use Audacity.
Oh, and you're gonna. I'm like
We were
looking
on
at this
such a
program. I'm using
roll.
Audacity to record this right now, and I'm like, Carlos is gonna make some freaking comment about Audacity.
Hee hee.
Peace out.
Yeah.
Fool.
That's why we're trading him. We're trading him for Idris.
So
Yeah,
don't even start.
Trading Carlos in. We want a new one.
Yeah.
Anyone? We're opening slots now for
Anyone in the
Carlos's
comments whose
replacement.
name is Carlos and can do virtually everything he does.
Except make puns.
I'd love to see
Yes,
a
except
contest where people try to impersonate me.
Oh my
God.
god. Don't give him that
Contest?
idea. Do
You
not
You have
give
to
him that
hate
idea.
chocolate.
I mean, it
And
would be
not
like
be
such
together.
an egotistical thing to do, though.
It would be.
I
Yeah.
kind of. I mean,
Unless, like, okay, if somebody else started
I'll
it,
do it.
you want to start a contest?
here I'm gonna work my Carlos impressions. Just,
Oh,
No.
oh, Lord.
No.
That's all the time we have for Wowie today,
Yeah,
folks.
that's it.
Thanks for tuning in. Share your inspirations in the comment
It's
section
okay
below.
to steal
Yes,
music.
I'm really curious.
Just
Before
don't
Roe gets a
say
chance
it.
to talk again.
Wowie!
This is my Carlos impression.